All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on Friday. We are wrapping up National Distance Learning Week. We've had a very eventful week, and I hope you've gotten a chance to attend maybe some other webinars. And if not, we have all the recordings for you that we'll share that link out toward the end here. So today, I want to welcome our panelists to talk a little bit about their campus responses to COVID-19. And this will be moderated by Kim Scalzo, our Executive Director at SUNY Online. And we are joined by John Locke, the Coordinator for Technology Enhanced Learning and Distance Education at SUNY Plattsburgh on the pirate ship. And we are also joined by Pam Youngs-Maher, Director of E-Learning from SUNY Upstate Medical, Elissa Baker, the Senior Instructional Designer and Distance and Online Learning teacher at Hudson Valley Community College, and Irene Scruton, Assistant Dean and Director of MBA Programs for SUNY OSwego School of Business. So to kick us off, I'll have Kim talk a little bit about SUNY's response at the system level, and then we'll get into campuses.
Thanks very much, Erin, and thanks to everybody for being here, and of course to our panelists. So we thought it was important as part of National Distance Learning Week that we take the opportunity to acknowledge and celebrate some of the really great work that has been done across the system to help our campuses respond to the need for our courses and to go online and for faculty to be able to teach in this remote instruction mode. So, what we wanted to do here today is I'm going to talk a little bit about what resources we have, what we provided for the SUNY community, and then we're going to hear from each of the panelists. So our COVID remote instruction site has really been the hub at the system level for all the supports and services that we've provided. I think it was really an effective way to pull together in one place everything that's been available, things that we've provided, things that our vendor partners have provided, things that other associations and other institutions have provided that can be shared, as well as resources from our campuses. And I have to just give a big shout out in terms of the webinars and recordings, which I think has been a significant part of what we were able to do. Many of those were delivered by our own faculty and staff and administrators across the system. So tremendous contributions and a really great example of sharing of strategies, tips, best practices. Our provost has said on many occasions we were able to bring SUNY's strength and experience in online learning to bear in this response to COVID, and that was really evident when you see who delivered many of those webinars that happened throughout the spring and summer and even continuing into the fall term. The webinars have all been captured and recorded, so they are there for folks to go back to. The other thing that just to point out, I think that was important is that we saw some new services emerge that were needed, right? So we offered drop-in services for faculty as well as for students. The faculty hours, I think, were really taken advantage of at a time when campuses were getting their services up and running. So I think that was tremendous. And we've seen some of that continue. We offer that in a targeted way, along with instructional design as a service to campuses, because that was really one of the areas where we heard from campus leaders that we needed more capacity. So that is another kind of area of service that we stood up, and will likely be one of those things that continues for campuses who need it, even as we move out of this kind of COVID remote instruction mode. So those were really, I think, tremendous opportunities for us. The Center for Professional Development, the CPD, has been a tremendous ally and collaborator with us in this. And they offered the SUNY Remote Teaching Institute with multiple series of programming. The latest one that's coming up I think in December, right? In addition to those you see listed, is going to be on HighFlex. So again, continuing to try to support our campuses. Again, all of the sessions that they offered have been recorded and are available on the website. And then the other thing we've been able to do is leverage SUNY's instance of workplace. We saw a need for faculty to connect with each other across the campuses in disciplinary areas. So we created a wide range of discipline-specific workplace groups for faculty where they are sharing and being able to access resources and information to support their remote instruction efforts in their discipline. So I think that's been really helpful. And Erin has provided the links for the ways to access that. The other thing that we've been doing is is really thinking, kind of more broadly about how do we help faculty go beyond that initial instance of teaching remotely to, kind of the second or third time they're going to be doing their course. So our online teaching team has been offering a series of webinars in a variety of areas directly to support faculty. And so things like rubrics and course templates, and a lot of it is really just kind of going through the resources, some that we've already had available, some that were developed new for remote instruction. And so that playlist and registration link is there for folks to take advantage of. And then in terms of additional services, the vendor offers and pricing offers and UI contracts are available in the at the links there. We expanded the SUNY Online Help Desk hours, which we expanded the number of hours to support our SUNY Online Degrees at Scale initiative. We opened up the help desk to all of the campuses, regardless of whether or not they were subscribers. So I think that has been really helpful. We did a lot to promote the open and digital content and adaptive learning platforms available through SUNY OER services, and we know many campuses took advantage of that. Support for accessibility compliance through the extension of Blackboard's Ally tool. Many campuses were able to take advantage of that. We supported, I'm going to come back to the dashboard. We have most recently been promoting SUNY's newest initiative, the SUNY Mental Health Initiative. We know that has been a big challenge for students as well as for faculty and staff. So really, really proud of us as a system for being able to tackle that long term. I think that's another thing that will support us post-COVID. And then just to come back to the dashboard, we knew that in standing up all of these services and resources that we weren't initially totally sure what was going to resonate, what was going to be most valuable. But through the dashboard where we were tracking campus and individual usage of all the services, we've been able to see what was taken advantage of more or less, and that has informed how we've been evolving and what services are sticking around and continuing. So if you're interested in seeing how your campus took advantage of our services and what they did, you can check that out as well. Okay, so I think that is that's it for the things that we've covered. Again, I just want to say that, it has been a time of tremendous collaboration and support and collegiality across SUNY. I, continue to be amazed and impressed with all the capability in our system and the willingness of folks to share and support and help each other. And what we really want to do in this session is highlight some of the really great things that our campuses did. So I think we're going to go ahead and move to the panel contributions, and we're going to start with John Locke at Plattsburgh, I believe. You're muted, John. Good job. Somebody has to in every session.
Right off the bat, I'm watching a lot of news these days, and some of my favorite pundits are always muted and start talking, so I'm in good company. Yeah, well, let's start at the back when things were somewhat normal. At Plattsburgh, we had a certification process for anyone who needed or wanted to teach online. It wasn't always followed. We're a best practices campus. We are not in a position to mandate much to our faculty, but we did manage to negotiate this, that if faculty wanted to teach online, they had to get certified before they could do it. And, you know, like any course taught at any college by multiple professors, depending on who did that certification process, it was slightly different. I tend to focus on pedagogy with links to how to use the tools in the LMS, and expect that if faculty want to use those tools, they'll do a little independent work to figure out how. My colleague Peter, on the other hand, you know, really digs down into each and every, well, not each and every, but most of the tools in Moodle, which is our LMS. And then, not as an afterthought, but as a side note, explains how those tools can be used, you know, to enhance pedagogy online. And we compare notes and everything. And, you know, at one point we decided what we really would love to do is just, you know, kind of double the amount of time it takes to get through training and cover both, because obviously there are advantages to either concept. So fast forward to last March, when we had most of the faculty gathered in a big hall, and the provost asked me to stand with him. I think because I'm wider than him, I don't know, but I think he wanted to hide behind me if anybody started throwing things. But he then broke the news to faculty that they had their spring break to put all their courses online because nobody was coming back. And you could see deer in the headlights. And, you know, and someone raised their hand and said, so we're supposed to do all this on our own? And I, you know, puffed up my chest and ripped my shirt open with a big S on there. Not really, metaphorically. And said, oh no, we'll be here to help you. You know, and all the staff in LITS, you know, were pitching in to make this possible, but they all looked at me like, hey, come on, don't make promises you can't keep. Well, we managed to get through it. And, you know, I can't say that it was a clean process. I can't say that, you know, students were satisfied with everything they got. But what it did provide for us was a great list of things that we needed to do to be sure that the fall semester was better. And even though at that point, you know, we had wishful thinking people who thought, no, this is all over. By fall, we'll be back in the classroom. And, you know, and of course, our administration was not committing to one or the other at that point. They wanted every second to figure out what to do. So, of course, our approach was, well, you just have to assume it's the worst and plan for that. So Peter and I got together and took what we were doing, which was about 20 hours worth of work over a 5-week period of time. Or in Peter's case, for me, it was 5 weeks asynchronous. Peter did 2.5-day face-to-face workshops. And we covered essentially the same material, but like I said, with different focuses. So what we did, we decided to double that and make it a 40-hour session. And we divided it. We knew that some faculty were going to be able to and would feel more comfortable spreading it out over 5 weeks. Others would just want to get it done. So we created both a 5-day and a 5-week session, 40 hours of work in each session, in each workshop format. And within that, I want to go ahead and show you. So they tell me I can share my screen, and I will do that now. So you should be looking at our Moodle page, and let's see here. I got to get back out to the beginning of it, because the beginning of it looks a little prettier. There we go. And it's text heavy because this was in fact the 5-week version. So what we did was we did the 5-day version first, and we actually recorded all of the Zoom sessions. The mornings had how to do things in Moodle sessions, and we recorded all those. And then in the 5-week versions, we just posted the videos of those sessions. We separated the content into modules. It's all linear, just goes by week or day, depending on which format they took. And so, you know, the first one, Moodle as a classroom. Week 2 or day 2 was just lesson planning, discussion forums, and how to give students the ability to practice what they're doing. The 3rd week was assessment. The 4th was, engagement activities, ADA compliance. We touched on copyright issues and various modes of collaboration that they could work with students. And then the final one was assessment. And so I'll just go into week 1 here and walk you through that, and then I'll be done with my part. For those of you who are already nodding off. So at the beginning, we tell them, don't panic. We're here to help you. And even after this this workshop, you can pick up the phone. We'll check in with you, whatever you want. So in week 1, you can see the Zoom session recordings. The first was on scaffolding, and that was about an hour and a half. When we did them live, they were from 9 until 11:30 or so, with a break between, and then we would just start a new Zoom session for the second one for our convenience, just so we would be able to better manage the recordings. And then we went over the essential resources, and that took us to about 11:30. And the difference this time between how we used to do it was that after that, we actually had assignments. We had do it, build it assignments where faculty, because these were folks that some of them had only used Moodle to, post their syllabus and maybe a handout or two, and hadn't used it much beyond that. Others had never used Moodle at all. It's not a requirement at our school to use an LMS. So this gave them a chance to actually try these things out. And the benefit of that was we got a rich list of questions so that we could refine our approach on how we taught the subject matter in the first place, and also to really figure out what the weak spots were in our LMS, so that we could spend extra time on those pieces. So that was kind of the practical aspect. And at the same time, I had assigned some reading assignments. There aren't many in the first week, but there are more as you go along, that, are from various sources, and various resources out there, including, and I have to thank so much SUNY and Kim and Alex and all the folks there, because they put together some amazing resources. And in fact, I put together, we have a best practices in online learning publication that I think the first one was like 2010. And the last update before I came on board was 2013. Or 16, somewhere around there. But anyway, I was just about to launch the 2020 version of it when COVID hit. So I put out a pared down version of that called the COVID edition. And there's some original content in there, definitely, but I aggregated a lot of stuff from out there, and much of that stuff came from the work that Alex has done. So it's properly cited, I believe, in the book. It's cited. I don't know whether it's properly cited or not. It should be. But anyway, kudos to you folks for providing that material, because it was certainly easier than having to reinvent it. Also, one little note here, you'll see we do have Ally attached to our Moodle, and I have a newer version that's much more in compliance with ADA than this one. We had gotten it to medium before these workshops and decided that was good enough for now. And then, of course, forums. We had 2 forums. The How Do I was in relation to the practical work, and then the other discussion forums were meant for folks to reflect on what they had read, and then figure out how to apply that to what they were doing. And the forums alone were incredible. I mean, these faculty would get together, and we'd have biology professors telling English professors how they do things, and English professors saying, wow, I never thought of that, but that would work. And, so it was a real community builder. And by the end of let's see, by the end of August, we had run 2 2 5-week and 3 5-day sessions. And Holly hates it, my boss, the dean, hates it when I say we pushed faculty through, because we didn't. It was an enjoyable, faculty flowed through this entire process like tubes on a water ride. It was enjoyable for everybody. And we managed to get over 160 faculty through the system by the end of the summer. That's it for me. And thank you. I will stop sharing my screen now.
I think we're just going to take a few minutes after each person to see if there's 1 or 2 questions, and then we'll come back at the end. So anybody have any questions for John? Or not?
Okay.
All right, great. Well, thank you again, John. Great job. It's huge progress. I know where your campus, has been, and so that's really tremendous. Good job. Next, we're going to go to Pam Youngs-Maher from Upstate Medical to talk about what they did.
Right. So Upstate Medical University has 4 colleges. Each one is very different. One has 2 out of the 3 degrees fully online. So those faculty were in relatively good shape as we dove into remote teaching. Another one has some online courses, but only 1 online degree. And the other 2 colleges, distance learning doesn't exist for them. So it's a very mixed bag for us. What we did when COVID hit in March was to remind faculty or inform them, if they'd not realized it, that we have a Blackboard course that's there 24/7 with a lot of how-to documents on how to use not only Blackboard tools, but other tools. We were sending out a weekly email to let them know that we had 4 hours a day of office hours, and we were basically doing daily demos of how to use Zoom and how to use WebEx, because we rolled WebEx out at the same time for anybody that had an upstate.edu account. So that was students as well. So students could do study groups, help each other out, tutor each other. We did weekly practice sessions on Zoom and breakouts, and we did a number of things. Now we're down to 2 hours a day, but we continue to provide quite a bit of support for folks. So one of the things that we did was to assemble panels with both faculty and students early on. We did it April, May, and June. And we listened, we meaning e-learning, listened. So we were doing a lot of things to support faculty, but we wanted to know what was going well and what wasn't going well. So we designed a Rethink Your Teaching demo that we were rolling out for faculty getting ready to do summer courses and faculty who are ready to do fall courses, some of which began in June. For a couple of our programs, the fall semester begins in June. So we based it on 2 assumptions. One is that from what we were being told by faculty and students alike, face-to-face courses include social presence, but remote teaching courses, that was missing. It's a form of distance learning, and they weren't used to a lot of the tools that they needed to use and the types of interaction. So we recognized and brought to the front that distance learning is a choice. When faculty are building online courses or building interactive conferencing courses, there's a deliberate course development process that includes being deliberate about adding in teaching social and cognitive presence. Remote teaching was not a choice, including for people who didn't believe that distance learning existed because it just didn't for them. It was not a choice, and so there was a significant sense of loss for the faculty and for the students who were now thrown into that, and we needed to be deliberate about building in social presence. So what we had to focus on was how to eat an elephant, and you eat an elephant 1 bite at a time. And so part of what we needed to be mindful of in a university where your degree programs are all focused on health sciences is the psychomotor piece, where there's a significant amount of didactic covered in the classroom to provide people with the foundation, but then you need clinical settings for students to apply that and those skills and to be observed. And we were losing those clinical settings left and right because with COVID-19, students were being told you cannot come into these clinical settings. So we had faculty and students alike who were really overwhelmed with the loss of that component. That meant we had to scale back even further on what we were going to be able to accomplish with them. So I just want to, in the time that I've got left, focus on a couple of things. When we were doing our demos on how to use Zoom or how to use WebEx, we were talking about what are your expectations? Do you have the camera on? Do you have the camera off? Is it okay for them to be laying on their bed in their pajamas, or do you expect them to be in professional attire? And it was professional attire. They wanted them to pretend that they were in a classroom, embedding question slides in their slide desks so that they were asking students questions and they were allowing time for students to ask questions of them, because in a face-to-face classroom, they were able to read students' faces, couldn't do that with Zoom or WebEx. And we had a number of faculty that went to VoiceThread, so they were delivering their lectures and then using face-to-face time with the conferencing for interaction. But helping faculty be really deliberate about engaging their students with the content, with each other, and with the faculty. And then also using time effectively. I won't have time today to talk about what we did in terms of uncovering content and assessment, but for time, I do want to just show you, and I'm going to go past this one. I'm going to send this deck to Erin so she can share it. This is an example of a course schedule from a department that made a high level of use of our rethinking courses from 2019, pre-COVID. And looking at this, you can see dates over on the left and the topics that they were going to be covering on the different dates. You can see in italics what the different work was that students needed to do. So they put a good schedule together, and in Blackboard, our learning management system, they bundled all their content, but faculty carry the maps in their heads on what's going to be covered when. And part of what we learned in our panels from students was that they couldn't figure out what they needed to be looking at ahead of time for the day of, and so on. Here's a schedule from 2020 in preparation for a COVID course, clearly delineating topic, who the presenter is, what the learning activities are going to be, what's starting and ending when, what's due when, and then taking that same bundle of content and putting it into new folders so that the students knew where to go to be looking for things on certain days of the week when they were having in-class meetings. So I'll leave you with that so that we've got some time for questions, and then we can go on to the next presenter.
Thanks so much, Pam. Really well done. And as I just put in the chat, a really good example of before, after, right? And what made it more navigable for students, right? That was when we did the drop-in hours for students, one of the, I would say, the most salient conversation we had, and I did many of those drop-in hours, was I don't know where to go, and where to go when, and I don't know what I have to do when. So that what you just showed really resonated with me. So really great. Thank you. Any questions for Pam? Really great, I think, also to hear, kind of some of the unique challenges that you all have in the health sciences area. So thank you for pointing that out. That was really good, really good. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. So let's go on to our next presenter, who is Elissa Baker from Hudson Valley Community College, to talk about what they did.
All right, so we have a pretty large online program, and so going with that, kind of looking at where we were, but we also have a lot of classes that are on campus, and students, who we have health sciences, we have automotive, we had a lot of challenges. So we started with a continuity of instruction plan. I worked with the interim director to develop this plan. We focused on, assess the needs of our campus, the tools we had available, and how we could quickly move people from either from in classrooms to a remote setting or an online instructional setting. We focused on just the basics at that point. We developed this plan, a guide that we shared with all the faculty and the department chairs. Then we had a kind of a checklist. And on that checklist, we had things like examples for pre-emergency activities, how to email your students and announce to them what's happening, communication plans so that they knew how to tell their students what they would be doing when they came back from spring break. We too, lost spring break, and we had an extended spring break so that we could get people through and get them prepared. Whoops, I moved to my next slide too fast. And then there's, examples of, lecture content, what they could do to move that content. Were they going to do pre-recorded lectures? Were they going to do live Zoom meetings? So those were some of the things that we looked at in the continuity of instruction. Next, we went on to training. We identified the needs, we identified where we need, and my fellow instructional designers and I more or less had 2 weeks to get everybody up and running. And we had to also think about the needs of all the different tools that we had. So we went from pretty much 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, sometimes extended hours. And these are the number of workshops we had. So overall, we had like a total of 517 people that we ran through trainings. And these are just the 2-week period ones. And they were, an hour a piece, and we just banged through them. Sometimes as things shifted, we had to shift classrooms. So then we had faculty mentors coming in to help us to, be a second pair of hands in the room, so we could just get as many people through. So that was the next piece. Then when we got to our supporting of everything, we started with about 280 fully online courses and hybrids. And we went up to 2,000. So our office supports, we do the help desk, we support for Blackboard. And in that, we did have some, challenges. We weren't prepared for the onslaught when classes resumed of the needs of all the students and all the faculty. We were getting staff, so we had some new hires that helped the instructional designers, but then we didn't have a real full-time help desk person at that moment. So it was kind of falling on all of us. And then we also services to faculty for test conversions. We found that to be the easiest way. They had paper tests, we could convert them fast for them and get them on. So those were some of the items that we looked at as far as support. Moving towards summer, because we didn't have time to, really slow down, we knew we had faculty. Like Plattsburgh, we do have a training protocol. It's not always followed, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't have kind of the Band-Aid that spring was to get through the end of the semester. We wanted courses to be that were fully online, to have components that they needed, interaction, time on task. We needed to meet our, accrediting needs. So we developed online instructor boot camps. Typically, we offered a 12-week long training period. We met for 2 hours a day, once a week, and then one-on-one appointments. We condensed all of that into the online instructor boot camp. We developed a robust template where they could really just plug and play their materials in. We did do Oscar reviews. In our first rounds of boot camps, we had about 35 faculty that trained. We also did a remote instruction boot camp. Those were going to be our synchronous courses that were using Zoom. We provided them with a course template, not as robust, but again, it had basic same structures and consistencies with a deconstructed syllabus. We had about 26 faculty train in that, and this prepared them for summer. We also extended and had an additional boot camp for those second semester or second term summer classes. And then we, thought about preparations for fall. So over the summer, we had condensed our 12-week training down to a 7-week long training. We had 40 faculty that went through that process, and they, to be better. And in that, a lot of those faculty were repeat, people that had trained previously and were current and veteran online instructors, and they wanted to up their game. They wanted to do more, so they came in, or maybe they had textbook revisions. We also did Blackboard Basics, and this was our remote instruction where they could learn about Blackboard and the pieces that they could integrate to make things easier. I tried to really stress with faculty, you don't want to be managing assignment files being submitted to your email anymore. It needs to be on Blackboard. So that we had 24 faculty trained. You know, with boot camps, we again offered some of those in late August. And that was for both online instructor and basics. We had about 16 faculty prepare. We did early September as well because we had added another term. We had a 10-week term started, plus our typical late sprint. And then there was countless one-on-one appointments. Those just went on forever. So we're moving now into kind of a winter session and getting ready to prepare faculty for the spring 20 and 21, again, with online and remote being our biggest options. Just to show you quickly what our robust template looks like. This is the online one. We have our about the instructor, our course information, a full schedule. The course information area is deconstructed, and really we just put in placeholders for everybody. They could go in, fill out, or use what was already here and edit what they needed. We built out instructional modules for everyone where they could plug in their readings, add their lecture notes, tie in their discussions, their assignments, and their quizzes. So those were some of the things that worked well for our students. Keep that consistent structure and helping the faculty get there. And we did have a lot of challenges in all of that as well. Just skill wise, it was an interesting time. And as I mentioned, automotive, how do you do automotive? How do you build a building? Construction technologies. Those faculty really stepped up and did a lot of video and spent a lot of time to make things great for their students and replicate what they could. That's all I have.
Great. Thanks so much, Elissa. Great job. Really comprehensive and a lot of really good options for your faculty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for Elissa? Okay, great. A lot of, I think, good feedback in the chat too. Okay, so now we have our fourth presenter, Irene Scruton from SUNY OSwego, who will tell us what they did.
Hi, everyone. To get my PowerPoint here. Are we good?
We're only, oh, now we are. Yeah, now I can see it.
There we go. Hi, everybody. Awesome presentations. I've been learning a lot through it. My piece on the panel is a bit from a totally different perspective from, I would call, in the trenches at the school level with the faculty. And so it'll be interesting to compare. At SUNY Oswego, just to give you some context, all our online courses are managed, by a learning center, extended learning. It's a separate division on our campus. We have instructional designers there, 4 or 5 instructional designers, and then there's a small component of computer CTS, computer technology services. So that division is responsible for 4 major schools on our campus: business, ed, School of Communication, and the entire College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. So when COVID hit, we were looking at the landscape and really pulling together our leadership within the School of Business to say, okay, what can we do to get through this, right? And as John said, don't panic. We're looking at it as a calming feature. We have about 40 faculty. You can see we were running at the time of COVID about 135 classroom sections and online sections. About half of our faculty taught online. Half of that was very, very good at it. We're servicing about 1,700 students in the School of Business. So our main goals, as soon as it was announced that we were going remote, the leadership of the school got together in the business school and said, okay, first let's find out from the students their questions. And we did some informal surveying, I would call non-scientific, but we did get some questions out there from students. So we were collecting data fairly quickly about what their fears were. They were fear about not having internet access and what if a grade was depending on it. They had fears about the amount of work. So we sifted through that data, got the top 3 concerns of students, and then used that as a base to build on building some speed to respond to get our faculty move the classes to remote quickly. And the third piece, which I think is important, is that we were viewing all of our efforts in the School of Business as a supplement to, or a complement to, everything that we knew would be coming from our Center for Learning and Engagement, from SUNY. There was a lot of material coming out. I don't know if you can remember back when all of this hit. It was just a lot of information and material was coming at people, very good information. But when a faculty member is hypersensitive to what's happening and transferring their course quickly, we thought this would be an effort to supplement that in 4 different phases. So our strategy for the COVID, and it's really the foundation of what we're building for this spring and moving on. It was the first immediate response was in March. It was the survey. And we immediately set up an online SWAT team within the School of Business. We recruited 8 faculty members who have been trained in how to teach online through our extended learning efforts and who are very good at it and enjoy it. And so we created an online SWAT team within the School of Business. And through that group, we took a student focus using those concerns of the students as what do we have to do immediately. And we created a checklist of 7 items that we wanted all of our faculty, online and those moving to remote, to be concerned with at least for the next 3 to 4 weeks. In other words, we weren't going to make them online superstars and online experts quickly. It was to calm the situation, help them feel that they were responding to student concerns. And if students were, in essence, calmer about what was going to be happening, this would in turn alleviate some of the faculty concerns. So those items included, make sure you have your live online office hours. Make sure you communicate weekly about what's due. Remind students, because the online environment, we had a little self-responsibility issues. So you're going to have to increase your efforts to remind them that tests and quizzes and homeworks are coming up. So we gave them these 7 items, just focus on this for the next couple of weeks. And we began to curate, our SWAT team began to curate the resources that were coming from multiple venues. Again, great resources from our extended learning staff, from SUNY. Again, shout out to SUNY, Kim and Aaron and Alex, all the materials that were coming out of there. And we were also starting to pull some resources from, we could see what was happening at other campuses. And we made a School of Business guide for our faculty. The thinking there is that it's peer-to-peer. We're speaking the same language in class. You don't have to go into a long explanation about what this particular class is all about and what the best practice is for a group discussion, et cetera. There was a common language that was allowing us to accelerate how we could implement a few things. The second piece was the midterms. So we've got people calmed down, transitioned. Extended learning is, moving course shells and getting that set up, where the students are fairly confident about what's going to be happening. Now we started with the training, and we did much of this with the SWAT team. So the faculty would run a session on how to create a really good discussion board, how to create a time test, how to move, narrate a PowerPoint. I mean, really tactical tools that they could use to substitute what they were doing in classroom. They were like quick one-off, 1-hour sessions, faculty-led. We had very high participation for that. And then we started looking at the landscape of all of our courses in the business school, and which were heavy discussion, which were heavy quantitative, qualitative, and trying to match up our online faculty, the SWAT team, to those tasks and give them one-on-one support, Again, it's a person that you see in faculty meetings, twice a month, and you feel comfortable calling them for a quick question to implement something quickly. This is also where we started matching the resources of SUNY and our instructional design and our SELT Center to what was needed within our school. So they would get a notice from the SWAT team saying, here is a really great session sponsored by SUNY. Here's the link. This would really help. And so they had a trust level, they weren't sifting through a lot of information, trying to figure out what's good or what's not. Again, we were concerned about the speed and building the quality. As we got out of spring, we went into that third phase, summer. Here is where we started assessing all the learning outcomes, what worked, what didn't work, how did the testing work, how engagement worked. These were faculty conversations. And we were preparing for fall and gathering a lot of data about what worked and what didn't work and where we had to really shore up efforts on the online space. Our thinking all along was every faculty member will be comfortable with online, even if they go back to classroom teaching. There will now always be online learning as a part of their portfolio. And we were heavily integrating those SUNY and the campus resources into the online SWAT team. So we were funneling in, here's a great, say, boot camp session. Here's a great session on Zoom. Instead of duplicating it, again, we're supplementing it and funneling it, focused effort onto improving their skill level. And then that moved us into where we are now with fall and spring. One issue that we had to be cognizant of in the School of Business is that we have AACSB accreditation. So where you have your SELT centers, your centers for teaching and learning, and your instructional designers, we had some unique needs in the business school with our AACSB accreditation, which is the highest accreditation a business school can get. And there were new standards coming out on top of that, new 2020 standards. And they had a high focus on engagement, which helped us in translating what needed to be done online. So we've done the assessment. We're now combining the faculty, the student, and their course structures into measuring it against a quality rubric and an AACSB rubric. We created a new checklist for our faculty. And also in the fall, we could see things normalizing. So sessions with our instructional designers, it was normalizing. The resources that were available were becoming, here's where I go to look for it. Again, just that comfort level. And again, without that don't panic, but more of a calming, this is the way we do business. This is a good thing for our faculty. This is a good thing for our students. And we felt, again, all along that we were complementing and supplementing with a sense of urgency within our school with our faculty. And that will be our game plan as we build. You have your immediate response with the SWAT team, peer-to-peer. And then you complement it with, all of the fantastic education, even just some of the things we heard about today and how schools are developing boot camps, course structures coming out of our instructional designers. And that's pretty well it. Here's, our SWAT team. We were telling the faculty, here are the top 3 things that we got from pulling data from our students. And then again, here's what, just calm down. If you don't do anything, just do these items and you'll at least be positioned to have that communication line open and your course will be better for it, and then we can work with you. Here was, it's not very, it's kind of small, but these were engagement activities, and it was, I plan to do this for the fall. I would like a SWAT member to help me. I need more training on it, or this isn't appropriate for my course. And this is just a list, again, of, pretty standard engagement activities that you would see, weekly updates, videos, live hours. You have open Q&A sessions, etc. So this worked in, and then here was this is on a drive where it's a curated we've now just made it a continuity document for disruptions. But this is where we took the checklists, we took the quality rubric, and here is where you'll see the SUNY links for those great sessions. It's always, we look at it once a month to see what other great sessions are coming out there. Materials that come out of our Blackboard resources, how to use Blackboard and some of the tools within Blackboard. And we just kind of funnel it all to them coming out of our business school, and always with the acknowledgement that these are coming from experts, right? From instructional design, centers for teaching and learning, etc. So that is it for the School of Business at SUNY OSwego and our approach to it.
Thank you so much, Irene. That was really fabulous. And you hit on something that I think we were hoping, which was that we were, putting out a bunch of stuff and providing a way for stuff from other campuses to be shared. And what you did was say, okay, what's relevant for us? What's going to be most helpful to our faculty, and to contextualize that. And we know that your faculty, are going to, look to you for resource and support and help. And so really great, tremendous job. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
Questions for Irene? I'm just looking in the chat to see there's, again, some really great comments. So, Erin indicated she is going to be posting the slides and the recording, and that's on the slide here as well. So thank you again to Erin for all the coordination. We also have there the link for the national USDLA schedule of events, a lot going on around the country. So you can definitely check that out. And Erin, can you talk about the survey?
Sure. It's just a very quick survey asking which session you attended and a couple response questions about that, and anything else that you'd like to share with us. And it also has a space for you to suggest future topics, either that you would like to hear about or that you yourself would like to share as part of a webinar. So we invite you to take a look at that.
Great.
And with that, I think I'll wrap us up, but I just appreciate the panelists who shared, and I know that there's a lot of great work also represented in the participants that were here on the call. So, sharing in workplace and other ways what you're doing is just fantastic, and that's how we, how we learn. I found it interesting to hear the unique challenges from each campus, and then how you ramped up to respond so quickly. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you also, Kim, for facilitating the session today.
Thanks for the opportunity. It was great. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good weekend, everybody.
You too.
Stay healthy.
You
Thanks,
too.
everybody. Yeah.
Thank you.